Good afternoon. Thank you all for being here today for this important conversation about the power of science, evidence, and information literacy to counter misinformation and its adverse effects. We know that information spreads at an increasingly fast rate thanks to new technologies and platforms, but it also means that false information travels just as and sometimes even more quickly.
We're so grateful to be here at the Japan Society, and as Richard Crispin, CEO and moderator for today's discussion, it's my real and true pleasure to welcome all of you into this room and into this conversation. I want to reflect on our trends, and Paul, if I could turn to you first, we'd love to hear what trends you're seeing in the role of mainstream media in misinformation and disinformation. What is the importance of the nexus between traditional media, new digital media, and misinformation, disinformation, especially related to science?
First, commercialization. Media is about profit making. Second, and related to the first, obviously, politicization of the media. Much of the mainstream media have become really instruments of the political platforms and political agendas.
Right.
And in that sense, what they produce and give us, the public audiences, is not really journalism or truthful journalism, but rather biased propaganda.
Diana, I'd like to come to you. How is this impacting women and girls around the world?
Access to information depends on access to broadband connectivity. We forget when we still have an important part of the world that don't have access to nothing else except radio. And for those women and girls that don't have access to direct information, they hear the information from the word of mouth, or how it's been presented in the source of the media. So, out of this cause, we can have such impact as decision on health and body, and they don't have power and agency to take a decision which is correct, which is based on critical thinking, which is based also on the facts, and also on multiple opinions that are given and presented, and for women to have a choice to choose the option that they want.
Tell me, Mariel, what are you seeing in low connectivity areas, and how are you seeing this play out, not just regionally or geographically, but also for underrepresented populations?
So in low connectivity, it becomes explosive when you don't have the sources to connect to a social media platform to look at all the information that is available. You don't have the stream media to actually check, it's like what's happening, even if it's, for a few like stream, like media, let's say now the 6 that are in the US, but you have maybe one. So I think something that we need to think about is also how to regulate. Most of the information in Venezuela currently is going through WhatsApp. People are getting the information through WhatsApp, not even Twitter, not even Instagram, not even like Facebook, nothing. It's coming from WhatsApp because that's low connectivity. It's usually only text. So when the connectivity goes out and comes back, you receive all the text and all the information.
Gregor, what are you seeing?
So in the few data points I'd like to offer are, first of all, the need for awareness, which is particularly when you're talking about things that you're using every day. If you talk about something new, everything that can sort of offers a foundation for that change is welcome, because the second point is the possibility of confusion is absolutely massive, which is every time you have something that seems to be a doubt about something new, you revert back to what you know. And I think this is highlighting also the link between misinformation, but the actual performance of governments in what is possibly the biggest health crisis we had.
But how does misinformation undermine our efforts at this kind of innovation, behavior change, and collective action?
In order to get to net zero, mitigation applications simply aren't enough. If we get to zero emissions tomorrow, there's still, over close to 400 parts per million of excess carbon in the atmosphere that we need to deal with. Foundation for Climate Restoration aims to advocate for that, push for actions, and there's technologies out there, natural solutions, et cetera, that can get us there. The biggest challenge is again, as Gregor said, on the business side, from our advocacy perspective, is getting people to understand that opportunity.
Tell us a little bit about, like, what are you seeing the trends in terms of communicating with data? And I know you guys just released a new report in Nigeria. We'd love to hear on Nigeria, we'd love to hear what you're seeing.
I think you have broadly two camps, the sort of data evangelists, your sort of DevOps types, like everything's great and tech will save the world. And then you have your sort of data pessimists, like everything is terrible, we're going to hell in a handcart. And then, as usual, the truth is somewhere in between. Mm-hmm. So at the Global Partnership, we're engaging in a policy advocacy consultation at the moment. We're calling it the Data Values Project. We're trailing behind, and, unless we catch up and help our governments catch up, we can't expect private sector to kind of carry all the water when it comes to sort of doing the right thing, You wouldn't expect that in any other industry. Why would you expect it in facts and sort of the information industry?
Statistics and numbers and data are not sufficient. You need a story. You need to humanize the information.
What is effective to convey that you have played by the book? Mm-hmm. And because I'm going to be very straightforward here, but even when we play by the book, we have a feeling it's never really enough. And we wonder where will that be acceptable? And I'd like to raise the question to my colleagues that is there science, but science that has to be politically acceptable? And that's the question that I think is upon us in the big transformation where we are, which is we are doing exactly everything by the book.
Providing examples that are relevant to the consumer or the individuals, like all of us in the room, I think matter. And then also for other contexts in the developing world and others, reforestation, sea kelp farm restoration, regenerative agriculture, other means that can pull carbon from the atmosphere, I think are critical, again, in A, hope, and B, letting more people understand the potential that we have in front of us.
In thinking about stories, where do they come from? They come from listening. And then I think, where are people, where are they sharing their stories? Then you have to go back to the methods that people are using.
What in particular we might do in authoritarian regimes or low connectivity areas?
We have the mistrust of government, and if we're waiting for standards to be deployed all over the world, we're also trusting that these governments are not regimes. So, like, a big point that I want to make, not only as a Venezuelan, but now wearing my Engineering for Change hat, is how much we need to lean on civic society, nonprofits, and organizations that are vetting the information from a very technical and unbiased perspective.
What do you think is the role of multilateral institutions in helping us get our handle? And one of the recommendations in the report is around letting some experimentation in public policy, but where do you see the role of multilaterals?
We need to highlight the power of partnerships here. And in doing so, UN agencies are collaborating as one UN. And we saw earlier in the year, UN Secretary General calling for an active campaign against disinformation.
If I can maybe start with you, what is one thing you would recommend to people listening in today, what that they can go and do to help combat disinformation?
Civil society, I think the message coming out of civil society, following those channels as that unbiased vessel of storytelling and narratives is one action to take as it pertains to misinformation.
Jennifer?
I think it really has to be meet people where they are, translate into the languages that they speak in, democratize the technologies and the data so that they can use it. Because if you come towards people, then they'll amaze you with what they can do. If you put technology and data in their hands and communicate with them on their own terms, then really the answers will reveal themselves.
Enabling, empowering local sources of information, empowering civil society, following platforms like Engineering for Change, of course I had to say that, that can enable, and you can start following and hearing this information, so hopefully we become more powerful.
Am I consuming responsibly? And that doesn't only apply to our products, but to, mobility and carbon footprint, and the way you use social media, but it's very prevalent in the way we interact with them. As mentioned, we try to make them consider the journey to change really profoundly their lifestyle as long as they have the right information. And that would be really also, where do I have the right information? Do I think I do? And where is the limit of my freedom?
You need to be an informed citizen, and I do believe that our extraordinary abilities coming from the ordinary, our ordinary extraordinary. So in order to be so, just choose your path, your segment, and one page at a time to be informed. This is one. And I also believe that we need to talk frankly about promises practices, or so-called good examples, but also about challenges. I think we don't talk too much about challenges, and this will help us to reinvent the wheel.
There you have it, folks. You've heard from our illustrious panel. Hopefully you have also had a chance to download and read our report. Thank you again to all of our panelists. Thank you to Diana, to Kai, to Jennifer, to Mariela, and to Gregoire. Give them all a big hand, if you would, please.
And to Richard.
Thank you.